Now I'd like to talk a little bit about compound effects. Compound effects are when the effect that you are applying needs to see a control layer to work. In other words, if we are creating something like a gradient wipe, that gradient wipe needs to see a layer that will tell it how to perform. Let's go through that really quickly. I'm going to go to the project panel and I'm going to click on the smoke movie, which you have included in your project files. I'm just going to drag this to the new comp icon to create a composition for it. And let's perform a quick RAM preview of this. As you can see, it's just smoke, brighter pixels coming from the left. I'll change tools to the type tool and I'll type some words. I'll just type the word smoke. And I'll position it around here and make it a little bit larger. I would like for the smoke layer to bring in the smoke text. For that, I'm going to make use of an effect called Gradient Wipe. So let's go ahead to Effects and Presets panel, and I'll just type in the word gradient. And right here at the bottom is the Gradient Wipe. I will apply the Gradient Wipe effect to the text layer. In the Effect Controls panel, the first thing that I need to tell the effect is who the control layer is. In other words, who is the gradient layer? And in this case, it's the smoke.mov. As I scrub the timeline, I see that around here, at around 25 frames 1 second, the smoke layer should have brought in some of the smoke text. Of course, nothing is active yet, but with the CTI parked on a frame that I can see that the gradient effect should have been working already, I'm going to go back to the Effect Controls panel and I'm going to scrub the number for transition completion until the effect is happening. In this case, at around 25% works. I'm also going to feather those edges a little bit by scrubbing the value for transition softness. And there you go. When I play this, let's go ahead and perform a RAM preview. You will see how indeed the smoke layer is bringing in the smoke text. The best thing about this is that the smoke layer doesn't even need to be visible to perform this task. I can go to the timeline panel and click on the eye icon, and let me go ahead and toggle the transparency grid off. As you can see, the smoke text is still being brought in by the smoke layer. Like I mentioned, compound effects is when the effect needs to look at a control layer. The gradient wipe is not the only compound effect here. So let's go ahead and add another one, in this case, a displacement map. And I'll add it to the text layer again. I can just click and drag it. And here it is in the Effect Controls panel. As you can see, it's being added under the gradient wipe because in After Effects, effects are added in order. You can change the order of effects by dragging them up and down in the list, and that can change how the effects interact with the source to which they have been applied. The first thing that I need to tell the displacement map effect is who the control layer is, and in this case is going to be the smoke.mov file. And now notice that I can use the distinct channels or luma or alpha information of the control layer to displace, in other words, to move the pixels of the text layer. So I can use the red channel, the green, blue, alpha, luminance, hue, any of those. Of course, my smoke.mov file happens to be grayscale, so I can use any of the channels, red, green, and blue, and I will get exactly the same result. This value here is by how many pixels I am going to displace the pixels of the text file, horizontally and vertically. Again, for the displacement map to work, the control layer does not need to be visible. We could perform a RAM preview, and there you go. One of the things that I would like to mention is that the compound effect cannot see any effects applied to the control layer. So let me go over that. I'm going to make the movie smoke visible again. And now I am going to make it come in from the right. So from right to left. And for that, all I have to do is invert it like this, right? And now the smoke is coming from the right going towards the left. However, you will notice that the actual gradient wipe is coming from left to right, which was the original one. Again, the reason for that is because the compound effect cannot see that I inverted this one. So I need to pre-compose this layer so that the effect can see the changes that I made. So to pre-compose the layer, and we will be going over this a little bit later on in the series, all you have to do is select the layer, in this case the smoke.mov layer, and now go under Layer, Pre-compose. Name it anything you want. I'll just leave it with the default name. Make sure Move All Attributes into the new composition is selected and click OK. As soon as you do that, the effects themselves update with the name of the new layer and everything will work properly now. All I have to do is perform a RAM preview. And again, the control layer does not need to be visible.